So, Amy.
Zachary.
Avery.
Zach.
I don't know if you guys can tell, but I did something kind of amazing this past weekend.
And what is that?
I'm so glad you asked, Avery. I was part of a team that ran across this here state of Iowa from Sioux City to Dubuque, 339 miles over I think 56 hours. And, some say, Zach, you don't talk enough about what a hero you are.
How far did you run?
Not at all. I drove the van.
I thought you were the driver.
I drove the van, but that's not important. Let's talk about the Herculean task of 339 miles. At 3 a.m., trudging across the hinterlands of Iowa through Grundy Center, Jewell, Epworth.
Were you pushing the van, or
Sorry?
Were you driving? You were driving the van.
Yeah, I was driving. I didn't actually run anything because I learned in this process I only have one setting. Some people running is one of their settings. For me, I have one setting, and it's walking. I only walk.
Yeah.
I either walk or I sit. I have two settings. Walk, sit, and also lay down. 3 settings. I have 3 settings. Walk, sit, lay down, shake. I also shake.
Oh. You might want to get that checked out.
Hands, not uncontrollably. Not the tremors. The tremors have not begun yet. I'm old, but not that old. Happy Wednesday, everybody. You're listening to Cornhole Champions, a weekly podcast where we throw bags at the state's biggest stories. I'm your host, Zachary Oren Smith. I'm joined today by Iowa starting line's keeper of the inbox kingdom, the email wrangler. You know her, you love her, Amy Rivers.
Me too.
Whatever. And fresh from doom scrolling this timeline for democracy, starting line's digital puppet master, Avery Staker.
Woo! Happy to be here, as always.
First story. Iowa politics keeps getting more interesting. Ambitious politicians are already lining up like it's Black Friday at the Iowa State House to sign up to run. The calendar may say 2025, but with the number of campaign managers filling up my DMs, 2026 is already here. Over the next couple of episodes, we'll think about the different levels of the game, what names are in the pool, what names aren't, and what we know about them. This week, we'll start with Washington, D.C. Iowa sends 2 people to represent us in the U.S. Senate. Let's start with why the Senate matters. This is a 6-year term. Senators serve much longer than House Representatives, who only serve for 2 years. So when these elections come up, it's a big deal because we're kind of stuck with this person for a pretty long term. Last time, U.S. Senator Joni Ernst, the incumbent, we'll get to her, was up for re-election. It was 2020, so it's a pretty important election.
There are also only 100 senators total versus 435 House members, so they have a little bit more power in their position to make really important decisions.
Well, and then the other thing you have to think about is that the Farm Bill is up again still, and both of our senators, Grassley and Ernst, are on the Agriculture Committee, so we play a very outsized role on not only farming but food prices, SNAP. A lot of important things go into the Farm Bill, so that'll be something to watch as well.
Right. And when it's the Senate is kind of historically set up as like kind of a mirror of the House of Lords in the UK, right? That it's a it has longer terms. It has a little, it's a little more concentrated than the House of Commons or our House of Representatives. And in some ways, it's like a big boon for Iowa, right? Despite us having a much smaller population than some states, we have outsized voice, right? Because there are only 2 senators from each state that end up in this chamber. It becomes a really, for Iowa, as we're trying to get our issues, as we're trying to get our voice into the national conversation, it's one of these low-key anti-democratic, but high-key good for Iowa systems that we have at our disposal. So it's
Little feudalism moment.
Little feudalism moment for the girlies, and it's got a ton of powers, right? It confirms key officials from Supreme Court justices to federal judges and cabinet members. It passes federal laws, right? So it's like a really key check on federal laws as it's passing its way through. They are a large part. I mean, we've just been focused so closely on this reconciliation bill that's been progressing through Congress, Senate. It's in the hands of the Senate, right? So it's a key piece in how we get our federal budget passed each year. And then it has foreign policy authority, in order to approve treaties, in order to declare war, which, I mean, I guess the U.S. doesn't declare war so much as has its president unilaterally decide to go to war, which is kind of, that's a whole.
But Congress has to enshrine it.
Yeah.
Many times with his own citizens as well.
Right, yeah, to talk about the National Guard going to occupy L.A. County.
He just deployed Marines, too. 700 Marines.
Your senator's vote can literally determine whether mass legislation passes or fails. That makes Senate races some of the most consequential elections on any ballot. With Iowa's history of split representation, 1 Democrat and 1 Republican, these seats often provide a pivotal swing vote on national issues, but it's not been like that in recent years. Let's start with who's been in the seat that's up for re-election next year. Republican U.S. Senator Joni Ernst has served as Iowa's junior U.S. Senator since 2015, becoming the first woman elected to federal office from Iowa and the first female veteran in the Senate. 23-year Army National Guard and Reserve veteran. She previously served as Montgomery County Auditor from 2005 to 2011. She was also in the Iowa State Senate from 2011 to 2014. Ernst gained national attention with her 2014 Make 'em Squeal campaign ad.
I'm Joni Ernst. I grew up castrating hogs on an Iowa farm. So when I get to Washington, I'll know how to cut pork.
That ad aired when I was
Don't say it.
13 years old.
You were a BB.
And it was so my mom has she's worked for ISEA since I was 6. Right. And so I've always just been aware of political stuff going on in the state because of that.
Right.
And I just remember us walking around our house going, let's make them squeal. And I was 13. I didn't know what the hell was going on. I was just 13 and I knew that Joni Ernst kind of sucked.
Right.
And we turned that ad into a bit in my household. It was great. I consider that a foundational moment in my political consciousness.
Yeah.
We did something similar with Is Our Children Learning?
Is Our Children? Well, the Make 'em Squeal campaign ad was, in addition to being a household talking point for the Staker household, during that election, she defeated Democrat Bruce Braley, winning the seat for Republicans. She won her second term, like we said, in 2020, and currently chairs the Senate Republican Policy Committee. I want to just go through a couple of votes that are important for Iowa Starting Line's viewership. She was opposed to the 2021 COVID-19 relief packages. In particular, she talked about her opposition to increasing the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour. She has been in support of Iowa's private school voucher program, and Ernst supported more restrictive voting measures, including backing Iowa's 2021 election law that shortened early voting periods and reduced ballot drop box access. She also supported efforts to make voter registration more difficult and opposed expanded mail-in voting during the pandemic. What do you guys? Any other pieces of Ernst's bio or background that you guys think?
Where are the podcast buttons?
Oh, brother.
Well, and we haven't mentioned the what is it?
We all are going to die.
We all are going to die of it all. Yeah, Ernst has had kind of a tough year, given that. And I mean, she has some long-term weaknesses. She's The MAGA base isn't in love with U.S. Senator Joni Ernst. You'll remember the episode that we brought up on the podcast, the Hegseth confirmation, where Ernst was this pivotal vote, right? But on the confirmation, and was holding up the process, saying that, I'm hearing all these allegations of sexual assault, all these allegations of him drinking on the job. I don't know if this second in line command position for our U.S. military should go to this U.S. Secretary of Defense, should go to someone with such a frat boy persona, derogatory
frat boy
derogatory persona. Nonetheless, she after the U.S. After the kind of MAGA world blew up about her holding this up, including luminaries like Steve Bannon and Charlie Kirk, she backed down and kind of let that Hegseth sail through the nomination process.
Yeah, that was a whole thing. I mean, you knew that she was opposed to him because she had been opposed and had fought, one of the issues that I think she was a moderate on was she was fighting for increased transparency and accountability in the military when it came to sexual assault. And to have to vote for him, because she didn't want to basically get primaried.
That's such a messed up political game to play, knowing that, as somebody as unqualified, as frat boy derogatory as Pete Hegseth, the fact that, it was ultimately like political pressure that had her cave rather than morals or values.
I mean, this is where morals and values get you, right? I mean, I genuinely, Joni Ernst did a lot of work with the
Violence Against Women Act.
Thank you. Violence Against Women Act, which is a really important law for, a really important law as we're trying to get justice for the victims of domestic violence. And I take in good faith, right, that this is something that she really values. But to kind of shrivel up on when push comes to shove for those values, it felt like a really bad moment. Ernst is on the record saying U.S. senators should be limited to just 2 terms. Here she is on Iowa PBS's Iowa Press in 2014.
Senator Ernst?
12 years. I have also publicly stated that, and I would like to see an amendment.
Does it undermine seniority? One of the reasons Senator Grassley has said he plans to seek re-election is because he doesn't want Iowa to lose that seniority in the Senate.
I think perhaps in some cases that is a problem of seniority, where we have people that have served maybe too long and become part of that old boys club. So two terms.
Food.
2 terms.
Nice get.
Yeah, I know.
She's running for a 3rd, is she not?
She is running for... Oh, sorry. She hasn't announced that she's running for a 3rd term.
But she has a campaign manager.
But she has a campaign manager, the Des Moines Register reported. She's also set a date for her annual roast and ride, another really strong indicator that she plans to run. So, we don't know. I feel like we've done this segment so many times. We don't know that she's running, but we don't know that she has a campaign, but she does have a campaign manager.
She's Rob Sanding her Senate campaign.
She's girl bossing all the way to the top.
I'm not running.
Wink. Ba-dink. If and when she does, there will be a primary. One Republican has raised his hand. Former Iowa State Senator Jim Carlin is a hardline conservative from Sioux City. He served in the Iowa State Senate from 2017 to 2023 and briefly in the Iowa House in 2017. He works as an attorney, focusing on malpractice litigation. Like Ernst, he served in the U.S. Army in the 80s. Carlin ran unsuccessfully for the 2022 U.S. Senate Republican nomination against Chuck Grassley, criticizing Grassley for certifying the 2020 election results. That's the Biden-Trump election. He announced his 2026 Senate candidacy to challenge Joni Ernst, positioning himself as the America First conservative. Talking about Ernst's liability with conservatives, I mean, this is what happens, right? I mean, going back to the Hegseth thing, there were a lot of folks on the internet calling for Carrie Lake of Arizona to come back to her home in Iowa to run against to primary Joni Ernst. That obviously Carrie Lake said that's not going to happen recently, but this is what happens, right? Like that, the grassroots energy isn't necessarily backing the candidate they called DC Joni.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if the energy is going to back Carlin either. Like you said, it's been a minute. He lost his Grassley race. He's been out of the legislature for a couple years, so he doesn't have any sort of recent, policy wins to his name. But I mean, the other thing is, you like an incumbent in this race generally. I think like Iowans really aren't interested in sort of like, I don't know, starting over with a new Republican. I don't know. Like, and there's not, like I said, because she didn't super piss off the Trump people, there's not going to be a ton of money backing Carlin or somebody else that would run in her primary. There's not that energy of a Carrie Lake, for example. So I think Ernst probably doesn't have a lot to worry about with Carlin.
I will say that during a midterm that's likely to favor Democrats, a lot of the energy is going to be going for Democrats in 2026. And we're talking about a primary election, so it's a midterm, not a national. It's a primary, not a general. These are two kind of features of that contest that will prioritize party activists, that will prioritize the most the politics sickos, if you will. I count myself among them. These are the folks that vote in these kinds of elections, and it'll be really interesting to see whether or not Carlin can make a go of it. But Amy, I think you're probably right. Incumbency is a hell of a drug, and it certainly does hit like no other. And now to the Democrats, we've got some breaking news this morning. A Coralville Democrat is throwing his hat in the race. Iowa State Senator Zach Wahls serves as Iowa State Senator for District 43, first elected in 2018 and re-elected in 2022. He gained national prominence in 2011 when his testimony defending his mother's at a Iowa House hearing became among YouTube's most watched political videos of that year. We have this clip.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. My name is Zach Wahls. I'm a sixth-generation Iowan and an engineering student at the University of Iowa, and I was raised by two women. My biological mom, Terry, told her grandparents that she was pregnant, that the artificial insemination had worked, and they wouldn't even acknowledge it. It actually wasn't until I was born and they succumbed to my infantile cuteness that they broke down and told her that they were thrilled to have another grandson. Unfortunately, neither of them lived to see her marry her partner, Jackie, of 15 years when they wedded in 2009. My younger sister and only sibling was born in 1994. We actually have the same anonymous donor, so we're full siblings, which is really cool for me. And I guess the point is that our family really isn't so different from any other Iowa family. When I'm home, we go to church together, we eat dinner, we go on vacations. But we have our hard times too. We get in fights. Actually, my mom, Terry, was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 2000. It is a devastating disease that put her in a wheelchair, so we've had our struggles. But, we're Iowans. We don't expect anyone to solve our problems for us. We'll fight our own battles. We just hope for equal and fair treatment from our government.
He briefly served as Democratic leader from 2021 to 2023 before being voted out by his caucus for some of the changes he was making to its operation. He currently works as vice president of Green State Credit Union and the executive director of the Next 50, looking to get younger candidates in office. Just to plug, later this hour, we'll actually speak with Wahls about his decision to run and kind of the ideas he hopes to bring to the office. Tell me, what do you guys know about Wahls?
I definitely remember him from that floor speech on the Iowa House. That was a really pivotal moment. I think Iowa was, talking about trying to legislate away the right to gay marriage that we won in the courts that they'd been doing for years. And he had a really passionate, well-articulated speech. And being a young guy, that was really powerful to see that. I mean, you really didn't probably encounter a lot of people with, two gay moms in Iowa all the time. So it was, really cool to see. And it sort of pushed back against the notion that kids with two moms or two dads were inferior somehow, because here he was, standing up and advocating in a really awesome way, and then easily You could tell. I mean, he was just bound for, bigger and better things. So,
And I can understand that in 2011, giving a speech like that would be pretty groundbreaking. We had not had, like, the nation hadn't legalized gay marriage yet.
Right.
Like, the culture surrounding, queer people in the spotlight was entirely different than it is now. RuPaul's Drag Race was pretty young, like we didn't have
RuPaul's Drag Race was in
RuPaul's
its
Drag Race
infancy.
was in its infancy. Like, we didn't have, but like we didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm so sorry to keep aging myself, but like I was 10, like, and I like don't ever remember. I think the gayest thing that I had ever seen was Glee, and Glee is Glee. You know what I mean? Like, and culture references. So standing up and speaking about that experience in that setting specifically, in a more like kind of serious, not like kind of pop culture setting, is really important. It marked like not his speech specifically caused this, but like the way that he stood up and did that in that setting, that was kind of a turning point in the sort of political consciousness of LGBT people.
it was super courageous. I mean, and at a time when, you're not seeing a ton of that. Like you said, we had only had the right to marry for 2 years at that point. It was really nice to see.
In this state, only in this state too. I mean, federally it wasn't legalized until what, 2016? So
2013, I
2013
believe, that was when DOMA was overturned.
Next, there's another Sioux City candidate in the pool. Democratic Iowa State Representative JD Scholten was first elected in 2022 and re-elected in 2024. He's a professional baseball pitcher for the Sioux City Explorers and gained political prominence through his close but unsuccessful congressional campaign against Steve King in 2018. Scholten, the Democrat, lost a very red district, 50% to 47%. Pretty damn close.
Yeah.
Importantly, though, the very next election, he lost that same district to U.S. Representative Randy Feenstra by 25 points. Born in Ames, he's been raging about the way Big Ag controls our economy. We have this clip.
I fundamentally believe that Iowans deserve more than a GoFundMe broken healthcare system, a JBS food system, and a Dollar General economy. Agriculture is the top dog here in Iowa, and you have farmers who are getting squeezed on the input side. You have farmers being squeezed on the market side. They're just handcuffed, and as a result, it's an extractive economy. Our wealth goes to Wall Street, goes all over, but it doesn't stay in our communities, and so that's why you see a lot of our communities not what they used to be.
Tell me, what do you guys think of JD?
I love standing next to JD Scholten because he's really tall, and it is super funny for me to stand next to really tall people and be really short. In all seriousness, though, I like JD. I remember him campaigning in the 2022 election on Iowa State's campus when I was a student, and I always saw him there. Like, he's a very hands-on guy, and he seems very interested in doing things that allow him to just insert himself more into his community around him. Like, Zach, we had that conversation with him once where he talked about doing like a live music event or something. Like, he just seems really interested in not only being like a representative, but like a member of the community that he represents and being as involved as he possibly can. And I have a lot of respect and admiration for that.
Yeah, JD was holding kind of town halls in Sioux City, Des Moines, and Davenport, looking to try to looking to really like kind of gin up that kind of energy that we were seeing in the kind of initial days following Trump's re-election. He brought out comedians, brought out bands, right, as a way to try to like build a little bit of, people power around some of the issues. He's been really outspoken about this anti-monopoly lilt, right? That really so many of our problems can be traced to a corporate consolidation in agriculture, corporate consolidation in manufacturing, and he's been a really big critic of that consolidation.
I was going to say that's sort of what I've been following about him the past few years is his You're Probably Getting Screwed newsletter with Justin Stofferin. Like, he really talks about that corporate consolidation, the fact that monopolies are sort of like the default way that our capitalism has become in this country, and what it's doing to us. So like those, I think, are the kind of issues that sort of bring a larger coalition in, if you will. I think he's really hit upon something that a lot of people are struggling with why are they not able to afford things that they could afford anymore? Like, why are they maybe making a little bit more in wages, but are still falling behind? And he sort of is articulating all of the ways that that's happening and how policy can change that.
Yeah. And then last, Nathan Sage is a fucking U.S. Senate candidate who's fucking running for U.S. Senate. He's the first-time candidate seeking the 2026 Democratic nomination, a goddamn Marine and Army veteran with 3 Iraq deployments and a birthplace in Mason City trailer park, etc., etc. He curses a lot in his press releases. That's what this bit is about. After his military service as security personnel, he worked as a mechanic. He also worked as a radio news director and sports broadcaster. Shout out to radio. And then became the Knoxville Chamber of Commerce executive director in 2023. His April 2025 campaign launched, emphasizing working class advocacy and criticism of corporate influence, positioning himself as the outsider Democrat focused on veterans issues and economic populism.
I never thought someone like me could run for Senate. When I was 5, my dad got arrested for a bounce check, $50. He was trying to pay for new school clothes for my sister and I. We grew up poor, but I still believed in this country. So I enlisted again and again. 8 years. We were attacked by mortars and rockets more times than I can count. By the grace of God, I made it home. Now I'm the executive director of the Knoxville Chamber of Commerce, one of the many places that's being abandoned, hurt by corporations, billionaires, and the politicians they own. There's a war at home, and we're losing.
We actually spoke with Nathan Sage when he launched his campaign on Cornhole Champions episode 20, so if you want to check that out. What have y'all learned? What do y'all know about Nathan Sage?
There is
other than the cursing.
I guess I didn't know that about the curse.
He curses a lot. It's like a feature. Every press release, he's got to like say fuck in the like top of the very first graph. It's
I should
becoming,
try that.
Yeah, maybe it gets maybe
it clicks.
New strat.
Look out for that next fundraising email. It does seem like he does overlap slightly with JD Scholten on these sort of economic populism issues related to monopolies and things. It's also very interesting that he's sort of able to balance that dichotomy between believing and caring about those issues and then also being the Chamber of Commerce executive director, which would seem to be like a very like business, pro-business sort of. Not that pro-business has to be anti-working class.
And it shouldn't be.
Just that in practice, it does tend to favor the economic needs of business owners over workers generally. So I don't know much about the Knoxville Chamber of Commerce. Maybe that's not how he runs things over there, you know. But yeah, that's it. I did, when you posted those interviews a while back, that was the interesting part to me, is he really did seem like the economic populism guy. And I think that that's a message that's really going to ring true because it already is this year, and I'm sure it will next year. Not that we can't get better. We certainly could, but I bet it'll still be ringing true next year. Avery, did you have notes on Nathan Sage?
I guess, like, for me, on paper, he definitely looks like he'd be like your kind of typical small business owning type conservative, you know, like it seems like all signs point to like he should be that. And I've even seen some commentary on his somebody posted his ad. There was like a news outlet that posted his ad on TikTok, and people in the comments were like, he almost sounds like a conservative, like the way that he speaks sounds like a conservative, but the fact that he is a Democrat and like is talking about issues that like substantive issues that Democrats care about is intriguing to a lot of people. To me, it makes me very wary. I am very wary of like Democrats who sound like conservatives or like centrist Democrats. Like as like a trans non-binary person, it's always weird to see people like that. Like, you know, there's a focus on kind of economic issues and not necessarily on like the social issues that Democrats kind of champion themselves caring about. And recently we've seen a lot of Democrats, cough, cough, Gavin Newsom, kind of shed that social issue part of it.
Right.
And I find that very harmful and offensive and awful. And not saying that like he is doing that, but the pattern that I see with Democrats like this is that. And so I'm always just a little wary of that. But, you know, I haven't had any evidence of that.
because
from
you
him
worry
yet. Yeah.
that if you're willing to, compromise with the other side on things, then you'll be the first to be compromised, right? So that's
my
always the worry.
humanity is the first to be compromised by Democrats who say that economic issues are the things that we should be focusing on and not like all the culture war stuff. Like that directly affects me and my friends and my community, and it has in the past come from Democrats who speak like Nathan Sage. So I am always wary, but again, I do not have any evidence that he is like that. So
yeah, but I think it's it's definitely a fear that's in the water right now. And for all of these, right, I think that there's like a very clear, I think that there's a very clear answer here, right, which is that if every time the reason the right wants to talk about trans women inclusion in sports is because it is the one thing that in their focus groups, and they do a lot of testing of messages, that people oppose, right, that people feel uncomfortable about trans women in sports. If folks want to talk about trans women in sports, name me 5 Iowan trans women that are trying to get into our sports. Like name 5 national.
Name 5 globally. Period.
Okay, this year we took trans people out of the Iowa Civil Rights Act, right? We took away housing protections from trans people. If you want to talk to me about trans women in sports, name me 5 trans women in sports. We'll go from there. And then if not, let's talk about how we're taking trans people out of the Civil Rights Act. We're taking away civil rights protections from trans people.
Right.
And that's the thing, right? So long as we're having this conversation about a non-issue in Iowa, we're missing the ball game, right? Because the reality is, when the bandwidth, right, should be going to that which is making our neighbors less protected. And like, here's the deal: you can feel a lot of different ways about any number of issues, right? But like, I don't think anyone is under the impression that a American is any less deserving of housing protections just because of who they choose to be. That should where are my social libertarians out there that ought to be, I don't know, maybe taking issue with how we aren't protecting the civil liberties of Americans. I find it deeply. I think it's insane, right? That there's not a better, that we keep finding Democrats with not a better answer to this, given that it is in my mind, like a very easy to understand issue, which is one side wants to take away rights from a certain segment of the population. Historically, not a great look, and then the other side, is saying that I don't know. I
historically the wrong side of things, not giving people civil protections.
but go off, King.
But go off, whatever. But go off, freaking Steve Holt. Go off. I guess.
And with that, we'll take a break.